Hey Procraftinators, today I'm going to show you how you can up your card game with the Brothers Scan and Cut. And this video is going to focus on using the Simon Says Stamp April card kit that most everybody got in May because of this crazy quarantine life we've got going on here. So I'm going to start off by stamping the Lady with the Umbrella with Gina K Amalgam ink on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card panel. However, I do suggest that you stamp this on a larger panel than this, but I did get away with this and we will talk about this later. Then I'm going to scan it into my Scan and Cut, and we're going to head over to the Canvas software. Alright, so we're going to go up here to File and Import from your cutting machine, and I'm going to choose FCM file. This is going to bring up the file that I just scanned, or the image that I just scanned on my Scan and Cut. Alright, so I'm going to go over here to the Layers panel, and as you can see, we've got all these little pieces, and these are basically just like the little raindrops. The puddle is in more than one piece. I've got this piece, and then this piece is attached to the woman. It's just that kind of stuff. And I really don't want to cut all this stuff. All I want is the woman. So I'm going to click on the top one. I'm going to click this one, and it's going to select all these pieces, and I'm going to click delete. And then I'm going to click this one right here, and I'm going to click delete. You could also click the little trash can while they're highlighted as well if you prefer to do that. And I am going to start this off by saying that these are not going to look exactly like the cut pieces that you're going to see later on in the video. I had pre-recorded this in my basement craft room. I had the pellet stove on when I made these cards, so I don't like to run my microphone when I have the pellet stove on. I have done a video or two with that, doing it that way, but the sound quality is really terrible. So I was going to do a voiceover, but my last Brother Scan and Cut video, I did a voiceover, and some people had said that they would have preferred if I had went slower and explained things in more detail. So when I do my voiceovers in my editing program, the screen is really small, and it's hard for me to see, and it's not. It doesn't let me do the screen full screen, so it would have just been really hard to do the voiceover and give you guys more detail. So I'm re-recording this, but it's not going to look exactly the same. Like, the things are not going to be in exactly the same spot, probably because it's just not going to be, because I'm trying to do this from memory. So anyway, it's going to be the same idea though. So let's get on with this. So I'm going to tell you that you do not want to move this piece. You just don't, because when you scan this and you bring it over to the Scan and Cut software, Canvas, right now, currently, this would be in your machine. Your stamped image would be in your machine and sitting on your mat right now, because you're going to want to cut around your stamped image when you're done modifying this. So do not move this lady here. But you can move everything else that we're going to put on the mat however you want. Just do not move the lady. Alright, so I'm going to bring a square on here, and I'm just going to kind of center it around here. Just eyeball it. It's not a big deal. I'm going to tell you that I did stamp my panel on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of paper, but you probably will want to stamp yours on something that's a little bigger. It's not a big deal, but if you wanted to cut out the rectangle and have everything be precise, you might want to stamp yours on something that's a little bit bigger. I just kind of winged it. I will show you what I did in the end to make it so it wasn't a big deal, but if you would like everything to be precise, you may want to stamp yours on something a little bigger. Alright, I really wasn't thinking when I did mine, but anyway. Alright, I'm just going to center this, just kind of eyeball it. It's not really a big deal. And I do want to, before we get any further, I did make an offset around mine, or a shadow, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to move this to the bottom so that doesn't keep happening. All right. And all I did was click and drag that to the bottom. All right. So we are going to, I selected the woman, and we are going to create an offset. There we go. And I made mine 0.1. And you don't have to make an offset if you don't want to. I did. That's in my original one, so I'm going to make an offset in this one. And then I turned off the original one because I don't want the original one to cut. I want the offset to cut. So then I'm going to go down here, and I wanted clouds. There is not really a cloud shape, but this one is close enough, so I'm going to make it look like a cloud. I'm just going to squeeze it this way, maybe kind of squeeze it that way. And then I'm going to zoom in. And there's a couple different ways you can zoom in. You can click the arrows. You can click on this and then click your screen. You could probably type in a number, but I am zoomed in far enough now. So we're just going to do that. I'm going to pull up a picture on my phone of what my card looked like so I can kind of try to replicate it. So I did something like that. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate. And then I put one, I think I had that smaller. Put one like that, because, you know, not all clouds are the same size. I think I had it like right around there. I think that was actually much smaller. And I think actually this one was probably a little smaller too, but yeah, something like that. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Like I said, it's not going to look exactly the same. It is what it is, because I did want to give a better quality video. And we're going to go like that. And we're going to duplicate this again. Again, you just right click. And I did something like right there maybe. And then duplicate. And I think I put this one somewhere like, I don't know, somewhere like that. I don't know. It's close enough. All right. So then I selected all the clouds. Whoops. So you click the top one again, you hold your shift key, and if you have a Mac, I don't know what you hold, honestly. I don't do Apple computers, so I don't do Apple anything. So I'm sorry, I cannot help you there. But if you are on a Windows computer, you hold the shift key, click the top one, and then click the bottom one, and you have everything selected. And then we're going to go to Process Overlap and click Weld. So now this is all one shape. And then we're going to take this one. I'm going to hit the Control key and just select the rectangle. So now I have just the weird cloud shape and just the rectangle. And I'm going to go over here to Edit, Process Overlap, and Divide. So what it's basically doing, it is cutting the cloud shape out of the rectangle shape. All right, so now we have another shape over here. So I'm going to take that. See how that, let's get rid of this and zoom out a little bit. So now it gave us this. So it's basically, that is the piece we got when we divided this out of the rectangle. And we can just get rid of that. We don't need that. So now this is all one, well, except for the lady. This is all one piece. It's the rectangle minus the clouds, and that is now taken out of that. So then we can take that cloud shape, whoops, and actually we're just gonna get, this is the original shape that I hid. We're just gonna get rid of that for now because we don't need it. All right, so we can take this shape in this shape, and I'm going to weld it. So now I'm adding it basically to all of this. I'm going to take Edit, go to Process Overlap, and Weld. So it's adding it back in. So now what we're going to get is it's going to cut the rectangle, and it's going to cut around my, well, it's going to cut these little cloud shapes out of my rectangle. So my stamped image is going to be in this middle part, and it's just going to cut these little cloud shapes out of my rectangle. Now, if you stamped your image on something that was bigger than the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, go ahead and leave this square here. However, I cut mine on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel exactly. So if I didn't line this rectangle up exactly with my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, and chances are that's probably not likely, I don't want it to cut this square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the nodes. And because I already had the node editor up, I didn't want to leave that up. I want to show you how to edit the nodes. So we're going to select the shape and select it again. So now we have the node editor. So let me do that again. We've selected the shape, and then we're going to click it again, and this is the node editor. So I'm just going to select this node and click the delete key. Select this node, click the delete key. Select this node, click the delete key. So now my square is completely gone. So all my machine is going to cut is these little cloud shapes. And you will see when we go back to the card what it cut. And this will make more sense. I know this looks crazy right now, but it will make more sense when you see the actual cut piece. So now to transfer this back to my machine, I'm just going to go transfer FCM file via the internet. If your machine's not connected to the internet, you may have to transfer via a USB cable or export via the FCM file and put it on a USB stick. But I'm going to transfer mine via the USB or via the internet. Jeez. All right, now that I have it all cut out, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to mask the lady off. I did cut the mask with my scan and cut as well. And I'm going to take the stencil that was included in the kit, and I'm going to stencil on some clouds. And I'm masking off the clouds in the center because, well, I'm a messy crafter, and I didn't want to get the ink in those clouds. I'm going to stencil on some weathered wood distress ink. Jeez, I cannot talk today. Well, that's nothing new. So I'm just going to quickly ink blend on some clouds. I'm also going to use Stormy Sky as well. I'm just going to do these cards really quick. I want the video to mainly focus on the scan and cut portion of this, but I do want to finish off the cards on the video for the most part. There are going to be some steps that are skipped because, well, this video would be really, really long if I did the whole finishing off the cards of it on camera. But I don't like to leave out a lot of steps in my videos because I do want you guys to get the full experience, or at least most of the experience. So I'm just stenciling on the Stormy Sky now, and we're going to finish that off real quick, and then we're going to move to pumice stone to kind of give a ground effect, you know, kind of like a concrete or some kind of ground, whatever kind of ground she's standing on. And that will finish off that panel. My vision for this card was that she's kind of in a stormy area, and then we're going to put a rainbow, one of the rainbow pieces of paper, pattern paper that was included in the kit, behind her, or behind those cutouts. And it's kind of looking like she's walking towards a better day. So I've got an ink pad here, a Kaleidocolor ink pad, and it kind of slides together to give you the rainbow effect, and then you move it apart when it's stored. That way the colors do not contaminate. So I'm just going to use that to stamp my sentiment on the inside, even though the sentiment's kind of small, so there's only a couple colors that get stamped, but that's fine. And then we're going to use that same lady with the umbrella stamp, and I'm just going to stamp it off on the corner and use that same rainbow colored stamp pad to stamp her as well. And we'll get at least most of the rainbow with her being stamped because she's such a large stamp there. Then I will be assembling most of my card off screen because that's fairly self-explanatory of popping up the panel, putting the rainbow behind it, and I did forget to stamp my sentiments, so this is popped up with foam tape and whatnot, so I just flipped my door around to the rubber side so I could get a good impression because it is a thicker card panel, and we're just going to stamp that with VersaFine Clair. And I did assemble the rest of it off screen, and I will give you a quick glimpse of that, and then the finished card pictures will follow. So there's the finished card. I did color her in gray to kind of give the stormy day effect, and I did that with some gray Master's Touch markers. And then we'll be moving on to the second card. I stamped the second card on a panel in the middle, just like I stamped the first card, and we're going to start off in the Canvas software. Alright, so we're just going to grab the file from the machine again by going to Import from your cutting machine and grab the FCM file. So again, I'm going to get rid of the extraneous stuff here by clicking the top one here, holding my Shift key, and clicking this bottom one above my lady. Then I'm going to grab this extra one down here at the bottom and click delete again. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to go up to the top here and grab a square. Again, go over here to edit, not maintain aspect ratio, and I am going to type in 4 1/4 again. And I'm going to make it way shorter. And again, this is one that you probably want to stamp out on a larger piece of paper, but again, I didn't because I had some card panel pieces cut already. Alright, so that's about where I want it probably. And then again, I'm going to grab that funny little shape that I made into a cloud. We're going to squish it and kind of make it puffy here. And then we're going to zoom way in. I'm going to make it way smaller. I'm just going to kind of cock it to the side. Oh, before I get any further, I do want to make another offset. And again, this is all personal preference. You do not have to create an offset if you do not want. I'm going to leave it at the 0.1. Click OK. Go over to my layers panel, and I'm going to get rid of this original one. Delete it. All right. Now I'm going to go back here. So my plan for this card is I'm going to have some ink blended clouds on the back panel, and then this panel is going to be popped up off the background panel. And also going to have some ink blended clouds on this part, but I thought it would be fun to have a little fancy edge of some clouds on this. So I'm just going to make some clouds here, and then we're going to right click and duplicate. And actually, I think I want that a little bit smaller still. And we're just going to kind of rotate them, make them different sizes. And just get them however we want them. It's just all about how you want your panel to look. And again, like I said, this is not going to look exactly like the one that you will see later in the video that's cut, but it is the same process and the same idea. So that's basically the same idea here. And then I'm going to select the whole thing. And we are going to edit, process overlap, and weld. And I could have done a better job lining that up, but we could just go click it once, click it again, And we could edit these nodes. So just click on it and then click your delete key on your keyboard. Whoops, not that far. There we go. And then this side. Nope, still get one more in there. Nope. Well, that's not how I wanted it to look. I think we'll just leave that one. All right. So then again, we're just going to go File, Transfer FCM via the internet. And again, if you don't have your machine connected to the internet, you can do the cable or put it on a USB stick. For this card, I'm going to be ink blending some rainbow colors for the clouds. I wanted it to be very bright and cheery. I will be doing the ink blending in Distress inks and some rainbow colors, like I said. I'll be using Festive Berries, Carved Pumpkin, Squeezed Lemonade, Mowed Lawn, Salty Ocean, Blueprint Sketch, and Wilted Violet. So I wanted the panel with the lady to be popped up in front of some of the clouds, and then I will cut when I get to the point where the panel with the lady will cover up this panel, I will continue on the rainbow on the panel that the lady is on, and we'll get to that in just a second. And then of course I will have to mask off the lady for that part too, but we'll get to that. Again, I'm so sorry that this is going so very fast, but the video is over 30 minutes long already, and I didn't want this to be well, an all-day video, pretty much. But I also didn't feel like there should be 3 or 4 separate videos because it is, you know, very similar topic. So I did want to kind of put it all in one video. I don't know, maybe that's a mistake. You let me know. Would you have preferred that I split it in 3 videos, or and slowed everything down, or put it in all one video and just sped up this kind of stuff that's, I don't know, almost self-explanatory, I guess, but I don't know, maybe it's not to some people. I don't know, you let me know in the comments what you think. So I'm just going to finish up the ink blending here with the last 2 colors, Blueprint Sketch and Wilted Violet. I am wiping off my stencil in between each color because you can drag the colors off the stencil. You probably noticed when I did the yellow, I actually even put a little scrap of cardstock over my tape that I have on the stencil, blocking off those clouds in the middle, because I did drag a little bit of the red that was on the post-it note tape into my yellow. It's not very noticeable on camera, but I did drag a little bit of that red into the yellow and made a little bit of orange, but it wasn't a big deal. All right, so now we're going to do some paper piecing. So I took a scrap of the rainbow colored paper, that pattern paper that I used on the first card, and I'm going to stamp the lady on it. I just wanted the skirt for that piece, and then I took another piece of the pattern paper from the kit, and I'm going to stamp the umbrella on this. I am using Ranger Distress archival ink in black soot for this. That was kind of a mistake. I mean, I know that it's not, I'm going to use alcohol markers to color this, and I know that it's not alcohol marker safe. I knew that when I stamped it, but the cardstock is kind of glossy, and I wasn't sure what other ink to use that would dry on the glossy cardstock. So I knew that it was going to bleed a little bit with my alcohol markers, but it wasn't terrible. So I am using Master's Touch alcohol markers here. That's what I had at the time. I have recently gotten a bunch of Copics, so I'm excited to start using those in my videos, but these are the markers that I had at the time. So I'm just going to pop those colors up on the screen for those people that have these markers, and I'm just going to add some shading. That's all I'm doing, is adding some shading with some light grays, just adding the shading where I think that they should be. I'm not really an expert on that, but it's just adding the shading where I thought that it would look good, basically. I am switching back and forth between the views because the glare on the glossy cardstock was pretty bad. And I can't see the camera view on my second camera. On my first camera, I pop it up on my computer screen and I can see everything real well. My second camera is just my phone, and I cannot see that while I'm recording, so I did not realize how bad the glare was when I was recording it. but I did want you to see some of what I was doing on that view, but it was pretty bad. You couldn't see a whole lot, so sorry about that, guys. So I just went through that real quick. We're just going to finish that up real quick. It's just, like I said, it's just adding a little bit of shading. It adds some dimension to your fussy cut paper pieced. And I did fussy cut these by hand, by the way. I did not use the scan and cut for this. They're pretty simple. And I'm just going to add them to my image here. And I did color the legs and the shoes with my markers off screen. I didn't really feel like those would be paper pieced very well. So there they are, they're colored off screen, and then we're going to add our sentiment. And I did remember to add the sentiment before I popped this up on my card. Pat myself on the back for that one. All right, so then we're going to add the sentiment to the inside of the card here real quick. And I did add this. What did I stamp this with? I think I stamped this with the VersaFine. Yes, I did. All right. And it's just a simple thinking of you. And that is from the kit as well. And there is the finished card. I matted the back panel on some black, just a real thin 1/8 inch border to finish that off. And then we're going to move on to the third and final card. And for that one, we're going to do something a little bit different than we've done with the other two cards. We've got 3 of the girls with the umbrellas. And for that one, we're going to do a little bit of masking here. So I stamped the one I want in front first, and that is the center girl. And then we're going to mask her off. And I did not bother masking off the raindrops. Raindrops will land in front and whatnot, so that's not a big deal. I didn't really care how they landed on the other girls. So raindrops do as they want, no biggie. So then I stamped each girl on either side. And as you can see, I'm using the same mask throughout this whole video. I do use Avery removable ID labels. They come in an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And they hold it pretty well as long as you're not using wet mediums like watercolor or glitter pastes and that kind of stuff. And then we're just going to get this last girl stamped, and then we're going to move to the canvas software. So we're just going to go up here like we have before, and we're going to import from our cutting machine and import an FCM file. So again, I'm going to go to the layers panel. I'm going to click on this top one because we have all these extraneous goodies here that I do not want. I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard and get rid of all of that. So my idea with this one is to have my 3 ladies here stand on a little bit of a hill. So I'm going to pick this little arch here, drag it down, and I'm going to go to the edit tab here, and I'm going to put in, I think it was like 5.25 or something. It was whatever size you want. Remember that I am redoing these screencasting videos for the software because I wanted to show you guys in a little bit more detail. Get rid of that so I can have the full screen. All right. Because some people would ask that I show things in a little bit more detail and slow down, so this is not going to probably look exactly like my my cut that I have in the video, but it will be basically the same idea. So so I'm just going to place this over the feet because one, I wanted them to look like they were on a hill, and 2, I do not want the machine to cut these little extraneous puddle pieces that are left over. If you did want to cut their feet and you don't want the extraneous puddle pieces, not puzzle pieces, puddle pieces, you could do some node editing to get rid of those little puddle pieces. All right, so I'm going to hold my shift key while this is selected, and I'm going to select my 3 ladies here, and I'm going to go over here to the align objects, and I'm going to hit center and center that up a little bit. And while all of this is selected, I am just going to go over here to the edit and go to process overlap and click weld. And it's that easy. So then we're just going to go to file and transfer the FCM file via internet, and that is going to transfer that to my machine. If your machine is not connected to the internet, you might have to transfer it via the USB cable or export the FCM file and save it to a USB stick. But I'm going to transfer mine via the internet. So as you can see here, I cut out my ladies and I glued them to a piece of pattern paper, and that is mounted to a black cardstock layer, and that is mounted to a purple cardstock layer from the kit. The pattern paper and the purple are from the kit, and then I took a black mat from my personal stash, and then I stamped the sentiment on top of the umbrella. And then I am doing an inside sentiment here with the lady in the Kaleidacolor ink pad that I used earlier. And I had a little bit of trouble here because the little slider for the ink pad was interfering with my stamp positioner there towards the top, and I hung the card out from the top because of all the layers and whatnot. I didn't want to get ink on the inside of my card, basically, and I do this often. So I just decided to hang it out the top of the positioner, which kind of messed me up with the little slider on the ink pad. All right, so now we're adding some Silver Rain sequins from Nuvo. And I'm just strategically placing them everywhere, basically. I did mess around with these quite a bit, but this was the final placement that I came up with. I glued them to my card, and then I'm going to fill them with Morning Dew Nuvo drops here in a second. There they are. And that's basically going to finish off the card for today. I hope that you enjoyed the projects and learned something about your scan and cut and how you can up your card game. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would thoroughly appreciate that. And as always, I hope you have a great day.